Next speaker for 5 minutes, Lee Barrios.
Lee Barrios, retired teacher from Beta Springs. My last words for this school year are taken from a letter written by Dr. Teresa Thayer Schneider. She's a retired school district superintendent from upstate New York, has 2 master's degrees, a PhD in curriculum instruction, and over 40 years of experience in the classroom. This was an essay or a letter that she wrote. Dear friends and colleagues, I'm writing today about the children of this pandemic. After a lifetime of working among the young, I feel compelled to address the concerns that are being expressed by so many of my peers about the deficits the children will demonstrate when they finally return to school. My goodness, what a disconcerting thing to be concerned about in the face of a pandemic which is affecting millions of people around the country and the world. It speaks to one of my biggest fears for the children when they return. In our determination to catch them up, I fear that we will lose who they are and what they have learned during this unprecedented era. What on earth are we trying to catch them up on? The models no longer apply. The benchmarks are no longer valid. The trend analysis has been interrupted. We must not forget that those arbitrary measures were established by people, not ordained by God. We can make those invalid measures as obsolete as a crank-up telephone. They simply do not apply. When the children return to school, they will have returned with a new history that we will need to help them identify and make sense of. When the children return to school, we will need to listen to them. Let their stories be told. They have endured a year that has no parallel in modern times. There is no assessment that applies to who they are or what they've learned. Remember, their brains did not go into hibernation during this year. Their brains may not have been focused on traditional school material, but they did not stop either. Their brains may have been focused on where their next meal is coming from, or how to care for a younger sibling, or how to deal with a missing grandma, or how it feels to have surrendered a beloved pet, or how to deal with death. Our job is to welcome them back and help them write that history. I sincerely plead with my colleagues to surrender the artificial constructs that measure achievement and greet the children where they are, not where we think they should be. Greet them with art supplies and writing materials and music and dance and so many other avenues to help them express what has happened to them in their lives during this horrific year. Greet them with stories and books that will help them make sense of an upside-down world. They miss you. They did not miss the test prep. They didn't miss the worksheets. They did not miss the reading groups. They did not miss the homework. They missed you. Resist the pressure from whatever powers that be who are in a hurry to fix kids and make up for lost time. The time is not lost. It was invested in surviving an historic period of time in their lives, in our lives. The children do not need to be fixed. They're not broken. They need to be heard. They need to be given as many tools as we can provide to nurture resilience and help them adjust to a post-pandemic world. Being a teacher is an essential connection between what is and what can be. Please, let what can be demonstrate that our children have so much to share about the world they live in and in helping them to make sense of what, for all of us, has been unimaginable. Over my years of teaching, I worked with children who had met all manner of adversity in their short lives. Adversities that, by the way, their developing brains were not capable of assimilating into sensible explanations to replace the fears that all children have, even in the most normal daily encounters, much less an historic pandemic. I had 7th graders whose ability to even show up some days baffled me. From the child who woke up that day to find his puppy had been run over during the night, to the child whose family had been in a train wreck where his mother was injured and his dad killed before their eyes, to the child whose dad had died of a heart attack in his arms in the 6th grade and then lost his mother in a wreck on the causeway in 8th grade. They all had this in common. All had to take the LEAP test anyway. And that test was high stakes for them, their schools, and their teachers. And that test, by the way, was meaningless because no teacher, parent, or child ever gets to see it, analyze it, and apply those analyses to each individual student. And that's the end of it. I hope that I've been watching the Accountability Commission meetings, and I know Superintendent Jabbia has also, and the superintendent's meeting, and I see some hope in the future, but my hope is that they will stop moving a different direction from continuing to work on a mathematical equation to determine how much and what students have learned, which is not possible. Thank you.
Our next 5-minute speaker, Rebecca